Perfect. All right, it's 6 o'clock. I will call the meeting order for the Wells Springs Unified Union School District Board of Directors. We will begin with the pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First order of business is to approve the agenda. I need to make a couple of changes.
Enter the access.
The first change would be to remove the kindergarten discussion under new business and to add the contract recommendations. The contract recommendations were in the board materials this afternoon. So we just need to add that, and we will need an executive later on. So with those amendments, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by George. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. General public comment. So we have public here tonight. Does anyone here wish to speak? Okay, anyone online? All right. We're moving on to the consent agenda. We have the minutes for March 13th and warrants 334 and 336. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Meredith? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carried unanimously. Personnel, we have a resignation for all right. Disparity.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, is there a motion to accept the resignation?
Yeah, I'll make that.
All right, all those in favor of accepting the resignation, please signify by saying aye.
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 Unanimously, and a leave request for Wagner. I did have a question. How many days? I'm trying to find it. Oh, here it is. How many days is it for? So leave request.
Is that for the remainder of the school year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's an extension.
Yes. All right. Is there a motion to accept her leave requests?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by George. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, motion carries unanimously. We're going to table the contract recommendations till after executive session. And moving on to superintendent's report.
Thank you, Eric. I have just a few items since it's only been about 3 weeks since we last met. I do want to provide just a brief update on parent-teacher conferences. I know that last Thursday, as luck would have it this year, the only two snow days that we've had both fell on parent-teacher conference days. I know Carol and Corey met with their staff today to discuss the makeup date, and I do believe they will be communicating the makeup date to families in the next day or so. They can maybe talk a little bit more about that. during their principal reports. So we do have a plan in place to make these days up, and that will be communicated to the staff and family shortly. In addition, we have the VitCap Cognia assessment window has opened. It will be open until May 3rd. I have said this before. Hopefully, we'll get the test results back sooner than we have in the past. Past years, we have not received the results until late fall. Ultimately, our goal will be to get these results back and sometime this summer. So we're going to work with those, take a look at them, and make sure that we're prepared, ready to go for the fall of next year. So we'll keep you updated on that. The facility condition assessments, there's a copy of both Middletown Springs and Wells Village in your packets. I will hold off on just a brief overview of those until a little bit later on, because I do see that's an agenda item, so I'm not going to talk about that right now. We'll talk about that a little bit if that's okay with the board. And then we have some just VSA, VSBA legislative updates. Not a lot going on right now, just we're in crossover. There is one bill that I just want to, make you aware of. That is around the PCB update. That is H873, and that is around the potential for a pause language. I know that currently Middletown Springs, their PCB testing window has opened. It opened up April 1st and goes till June 30th. We have not been contacted yet by the Department of Health, DEC, or Craig Sterrett from Harper Environmental, who typically runs a test for us with GRCSU. And then I know that Wells is scheduled for July 1st through July 31st of this. The reason why I bring this up is just that this legislation talks about a potential pause in PCBs. And what that really means is that if the total fund dips below $4 million, the state would pause all testing. Now, what that would mean is so if Middletown Springs is tested next week, which it won't be because it doesn't move that quickly, but if they are tested before the pause, Middletown Springs would not be eligible for that pause. They would have to continue to go through the testing. We look at the results, and then whether there be mitigation or remediation and potentially any sort of abatement. If Wells has not been tested yet, the pause has been enacted, then they will not be tested. So if that makes sense to you. So we'll wait to see what happens with this bill. We have shared our concerns with the pause and what this will do to our testing and our schools. And obviously the messaging is to public around safety issues. But that is ultimately up to the Senate and ultimately up to the governor in terms of whether he's going to pass it or not. So we'll stay tuned on that. And the rest of the legislative is just a kind of a bit of an update. I know that the one is S284 that we hear a lot about is around the cell phone bill, and that is around just developing a policy that will not be mandated, but will be suggested to schools. So we'll see where that goes, and once we see that model policy, we can then bring that up to discussion in the SU. All right. I'll take any questions if there are any.
Questions? All right. We'll move on to the principal report. Last one.
Hey guys, if I go first, I'm stealing all of the good material. So I'll go first. So some of the things that have been happening in Middletown Springs, we've mentioned several times that our 5th and 6th grade class have been working with Up for Learning this year, taking a deep dive into our school climate survey that students fill out through the PBIS platform. Students have wrapped up their work with Up for Learning at this point. Through that work, they've identified next steps. There are some areas that they've identified through that survey that they want to get more information on. So they're talking about ways of gathering that, whether it's going out and talking to groups of students to find out more specifics, because the way the survey is set up is statements can be very general, and the students are interested in finding out why students are feeling the way that they are about certain areas of the building. We have partnered with VINS with all of our students pre-K through 6 this year. And at this point, VINS has visited every classroom. They are continuing work with pre-K through 2 right now. One of the exciting things that they've done is they've brought in a stream table for our second grade classroom. I think it's been living in there for about 2 weeks now. And so they're just able to look at how water impacts the land as it flows. Carol and I have partnered up this summer, and Middletown and Wells will be running a Wells Spring Summer program. It will be based out of Wells right here. We've got our staff lined up, and I think we're pretty excited about the opportunities that these kids are going to have together. We have Mike Doran coming to repair the shingles on our roof that were blown off in some of our recent storms this year. We are looking at, we've been working with Slate Valley Electric. They've been in our building looking at our capacity to handle air conditioners moving forward. And just for interest, we've also asked Control Tech, who's in charge of our air system, to just give us a quote on heat pumps, just to see what the cost would be. Something else that has been brought up about the building is that sidewalk by the playground tends to collect a lot of water and mud. And so we have someone coming to look at what needs to be done to fix that so it doesn't become a bigger problem. And then coming up a few weeks after we come back from break, we begin our artist in residency program. We're partnering with Nick Snyder from Rising Meadow Pottery, which is right in Middletown. Students in pre-K through 6 will be partnering with him to create pottery that will then be used for community events moving forward. So we're really looking forward to partnering with him.
Let me just go ahead. Okay. I'm going to start with the same Up for Learning. Our 4th grade had their final group meeting today. And they as well are looking at and analyzing the school climate information that came in. There were a couple of areas that they really want to focus on. And so they're coming up with a plan with how they want to move forward with that. Our Girls on the Run program has 10 students participating this year. And they are in week 4, I believe it is. Really looking forward to the culminating event, which is a 5K race on June 8th. Our Velocity program is starting this Thursday. So we have many boys that are going to be joining, actually, Eric with that. Teachers in 3 through 6 have been, our goal is to complete the VitCap testing by April break. We are probably going to have a few stragglers, so we maybe won't make that, but pretty much the students have done a really great job settling in and getting those tests done. I know that our staff met today and talked about the parent-teacher conferences. So families from Wells can expect a new sign-up genius. Mackenzie Gates is going to send that out tomorrow. Our staff decided that May 1st, which is a Wednesday, they'll have slots available from 3 till 6 in the evening, and then the entire rest is May 10th from noon to 3. We have in the 6th grade, they're doing the Trout in the Classroom, and we really haven't reported on that. And I feel bad that I haven't, because the kids are really excited about it and they've had great success. They started with 100 eggs and they have more than half that are still thriving, and they're planning their release date for May, which will be kind of a fun event. And I guess finally on Monday, being here for the eclipse, we had some really fun activities that both teachers and students participated in. There was a song challenge of solar eclipse songs for the teachers, and the winning class won Cosmic Candy. And then in the afternoon, the kids did stations. They played Foursquare with a different theme for the phases of the moon and the planets. And they did an activity with Oreos for phases of the moon. They did an art activity. It was just really a lot of fun. I think the students who were here just thoroughly enjoyed it. And our day started with our pre-K performing for the entire school how the eclipse worked, and it was absolutely wonderful. So It was a great day. Yeah.
Bring in video next time.
Someone did video it and we thought that we were gonna have it, but it didn't come back to us, so.
Any questions for either principal?
Eric, can I just add, because I didn't mention conferences, I was unable to meet with my staff this afternoon because of something else that we had going on in the building. So we will be, I have emailed my staff so they know what possibilities are, and we will be meeting tomorrow afternoon right after school. So parents will know before we leave for April break when Middletown will be hosting those rescheduled conferences.
Okay. I have a question about the, what is it, Sabres testing.
Mhm.
I know I've heard it before, but what does that actually test for?
So it's
Did you feel like talk about that, or?
It really is like measuring things for like our SEL programs and how well kids are adapting and during the school day and kind of I really feel like it's totally just social emotional health.
Yeah.
And it gives us a good read on students are kind of self-reporting, but then teachers actually give input as well.
All right. Yeah, I just wasn't sure if it was kind of like the same testing around the fast bridge or anything like that. So the kind of data you get from that is less academic.
Oh, definitely less academic, yes.
All right. All right, no other questions? I'll move on. I think financials are in there. National. All right, so we'll move on to old business consolidation timeline. So at our last meeting, we had a discussion on next steps and giving some financial information to the board. Just in the drive. All right, discussion. Well, but all right. Go ahead. Amanda?
Did you have something specific around consolidation that you wanted to accomplish tonight or get covered that we should discuss? Or what were your thoughts?
I caught some of that, but not all of it. Could you repeat that?
I'm sorry, I'm driving. I probably have bad service. I just wasn't sure if there was something that you felt we should discuss and cover in regards to consolidation tonight before our next meeting, if there was something that definitely should be discussed now.
Well, I mean, it's whatever the discussion leads us to, honestly. I think when we look at the first part of our timeline and looking at the potential cost saving, or if there is any, this is the information that we asked for, and where we go from here is really just the reason why it's on the agenda.
Is it the student staff ratio that we're looking at? Is that what you're?
No, not necessarily that. I mean, I believe this is kind of like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it's based off the, what we have for FY25, right? So if we were looking at this for, with these numbers
That's the document you're looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
Amanda?
So in the end, we really need to just decide if cost savings is our goal or if it's a different goal to really move forward with this information. Right? Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. And, you know, this information that, you know, that we have here, is this just kind of estimated? I mean, is there, like how much flexibility is there in this?
Eric, can you repeat that first part? I only caught the second half of that.
I said, is this, with this information we have here, is this, like all estimates, or is there flexibility in this estimate?
This is there obviously there's flexibility in the estimate, but this is as of right now currently what the savings would be if we would look at different consolidation methods.
Okay.
And that's, you know, going under the board's assumption that we'd still be operating 2 schools, 2 facilities, and all the costs that are incurred with the operation of 2 facilities.
Okay.
I don't want to take us off track, and you can tell me that I'm whack and we can move on. But could we quickly discuss about and maybe there's part we can do this later on, but the incoming kindergarten class for Middletown is potentially going to get bused over to Wells. Can we explore that model and see what happens there?
Matt, I spoke with Corey and Carol, and we are not going that route. We felt that there was opposition from parents in this, and also as the board has repeatedly said over and over again that as we're looking at any sort of consolidation, that this is just exploratory.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some families that felt that well, as we look at, you know, merging a kindergarten, that went beyond exploratory, and that the board was kind of going against their word. We did not want to kind of put that scenario in there. So I think it's something where we were looking at, you know, housing our kindergartens in our respective buildings for next year and looking at what that may look like. I know Corey and Carol can talk more about this. And then also, you know, exploring with the board what consolidation may look like moving forward, particularly around low enrollment numbers and how that impacts us. So
I would love to hear the feedback we receive from parents, just because, you know, this is just a sampling of what we could receive if we do pursue this going forward. What the blockers were for those parents. Was it siblings that were in the same school? Was it drop-off times? Like what can we learn from this that we can apply and maybe have a plan if we do merge?
Sure, Matt. From what I've heard, and then I can let Carol and Corey speak. I've heard that one of the main oppositions was just the idea of just the physical location, of just the idea of, you know, going to another school and all that means. But, you know, there's transportation concerns. You know, those are the 2 main issues that were brought to my attention. I know that you know, Corey, you had an opportunity to speak with families, as well as Carol. You spoke with some of your family as well, so maybe you could speak on some of the feedback that you received as well.
And I think though, in regards to that discussion, I think that would be better suited for, you know, potentially if the board really wants to hear what people think, that's an opportunity for like a community forum where, you know, we're hearing from people directly, can answer questions, and, you know, which, you know, as we continue to talk about the consolidation piece, it's going to happen anyway. But, you know, for now, we're talking about the consolidation timeline piece, the financial information that we asked. And I don't know, Matt, if you were on, but So we removed this kindergarten discussion from the agenda tonight. And I think, for the following school years, it's definitely probably something that we're going to be discussing further. So, going back to the timeline piece here, I did kind of have a question. I know it's around transportation. It says one bus for each town. And I'm just, that's going to be basically, picking up all the students from one town and bringing it to, to one school and then, right? I mean, I'm just, so, when I look at the cost piece to that, I think that's a factor in, deciding if, moving forward, something like this is, would make sense. And I've always known that the transportation part was going to be a huge expense, but I'm just curious how exactly that's going to work.
Yeah, it's not really clear either whether that's using the same current busing situation here at Wells and then bringing students from Wells to Middletown, or is it just from school to school and eliminating collecting students from their homes?
Yep.
So we don't know that part about this estimate.
No, but I think as we were working through this, we weren't given specific scenarios to work through by the board. So I think if the board, if there are scenarios that you would like us to explore and come back with the figures around those scenarios, then we can provide more specific numbers. But I think that things have been very gray with in terms of scenarios and from what the board would like to see. So if the board has specific scenarios around transportation that we could cost out and provide back, that I think that's fine. But it really would take a look at the cost of one bus moving between two towns and then two buses between two towns, and that not knowing specifically what that would look like because we were really running through different scenarios because the conversation has been very gray. There haven't been a lot of specifics around what this may look like.
Okay. Yeah, I think, the only two scenarios that really come to mind to me is all the students would be dropped off at the schools respectively, and then they'd be transported to, the other schools. So that would be one scenario. And then the other scenario would be that students let's say are being transported to Middletown Springs from Wells. They'd be picked up and then taken directly there. I don't know what anyone else thinks, but
That's pretty much it.
yeah, I think those would be, the two scenarios that it'd be good to kind of pinpoint that cost.
So Eric, the two buses would take into account the door-to-door delivery. The one bus would be more school-to-school delivery. I'm going to look at it like that.
All right. All right. So I think even with that, community feedback is going to be pretty significant for that kind of decision as well. So, hypothetically, at the least, there would be $100,000 savings.
200? Oh, you mean it?
Yeah.
100,000 if we stay closer to the status quo of the current bus situation.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. At least, and then at most 200. So, Matt?
Yeah, hey, I think we also want to drive this whole thing's also, you know, we want to put our students, like what are the best outcomes for our students, right? So this plan would account for no combined classes, which is a good thing potentially. But I would also look to see if we could get further enrichment with that money. So potentially hire like a full-time language or full-time arts teacher or something of that nature. So I don't know, my 2 cents.
Okay, Mary Beth?
Yeah, I just wonder if that would affect our ability to provide after school services as well. I'm not too sure about Wells, but I know that Middletown Springs, it's a service that we provide to families, you know, including mine last year, that was really valued as far as working families. So I just wonder, we do have this, you know, say we go through with the transition, we do have this bus and it drops you off right at your door, but there might not be anyone home. So I just want to put that out there as well. I'm not sure if that would affect that after school budget as well.
Point.
You could still have after school programs.
Otherwise, it probably wouldn't be us, would be my thought. But
Well, you could still have after school programming at each school. You just- they had that. That's the age.
Does Wells have after school program as of right now?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Okay, so I think, I mean, something to consider, additional opportunities. It would be additional cost as well. And I think, something that, would be good to determine too is if we, what is it still worth, moving forward with this, with the consolidation if there is no cost saving? And, I think that's kind of one of the questions. Matt, did you raise your hand again?
Yeah, I did. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
So to piggyback off of the after school discussion, a scenario where it's one kid's at one school and another kid's at another school. The parent has to go to both schools to pick up the kid from after school. Do we bus them back to, you know, one school versus the other?
I feel like that's
So Eric,
y'all figured out down the road. That's not like really critical for thinking anyway.
Fair.
It's
Okay.
hard. I like the size of the classrooms. And when we talk about potentially the state mandating student staff ratios, this looks a lot better.
Amanda?
I think next month when we look over the survey results, it might be easier for us to make a decision on what the community spoke back with on as far as if cost savings or if a increased opportunity is really what we're looking for. So maybe next month after we see that, we can look deeper into what our goal really is for the outcome, because with the surveys, a lot of the people spoke to what they would like to see change, so that might help us.
All right. Mary Beth? Okay. All right, so I think if we, well, before I say anything else, did anyone else have any other information that they want to bring for our next meeting? Mary?
Yeah, did we, I talked to families day to day, just who I come in contact with first and second grade. But as on a broader aspect, do the communities, both Wells and Middletown, kind of know that we are speaking of the subject and moving forward with the idea of consolidation? I'm not sure if anything, other than, just face-to-face contact with their parents and, people around. I'm not sure if everyone would know that this is on the table.
Should we get together and come up with some more exact scenarios? Would that be helpful, Chris? We told you how many buses, where they're going, how many classes we're combining.
Well, I think there's a combination of what Mary has said and that. I think, we're really, we need community feedback, we need community input, we need to, whether it be community forums, just to discuss this. And based upon that feedback, then we can look at presenting, the board could look at presenting some scenarios of some potential options and the pros and cons with each option, and we can work on that.
Yeah, that's what I mean, to have that
Yep.
information ready when we do start talking to the community, like this is option A, this is the result from a financial standpoint, option B, and so on.
So George, I think we could, work on, if whether it be in May or June, probably may not be a little bit quick considering it's mid-April here. Looking at, scenario option A, option B. Option A is our current model. We look at, current cost, staffing. We look at student, staff to student ratios. We look at elective offerings. Option B would be the model, whatever model the board decides to pursue, and then we could look at, cost ratios. We could look at staff to student ratio. We could look at so there's financial, but there's also the impact of students, and with each option, we can have a presentation of that. So then something for the community, for the board, the community to interact and discuss.
Amanda?
Could we possibly just schedule a community forum for like the end of May, beginning of June, to hear from families and others in the community on what they might think the pros and cons are that they've heard so far around our discussion, so that as we're making decisions, we can prepare to answer their questions, or maybe they've thought of things that we haven't. If we get information from them ahead of time, that might help us in some of our decision making. Could we have a community forum like the end of May?
Well, yeah, I mean, we can definitely talk about it. I don't know what people's schedules are like, so, but I think that aligns with our goals, more community forums, and, I think it is essential moving forward. Matt?
Hey, just curious, if we combine the classes and there's, instead of so many, it might open some real estate in each school. I'm just curious if there's thoughts of what some of these empty classrooms could be turned into from that standpoint, like a art room or a specific room. Yeah, if there's any possibilities there that help enrichment for the students.
Okay. I wonder if there's a cost to that too. Amanda?
Sorry, Eric. I guess what I was asking was like, could we schedule a community forum tonight so that there's enough notice to tell people about it so they can come? At our next meeting, we kind of get more information and then have the forum maybe like the following week or something, so that there's plenty of time to invite people and time to think about what we're going to talk about, time for them to gather their thoughts.
I don't see why not. We have everyone here. Yeah. Um, no, we can do that on item 13, later. For a future meeting. Does that work for everyone? No objection?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think, maybe for, our next meeting, having some additional, maybe information surrounding, the transportation piece and possible scenarios, that we could present to, I guess, the public for our next meeting.
What are those scenarios? Because these are not scenarios that the board should generate these scenarios and have us provide this. This should not be scenarios that myself or the admin are creating. To say board discussion. So we will cost out board scenarios. So as Jordan said, provide us with some scenarios and we will. So if your two scenarios are option A is our current setup and option B is a pre-K K through 3 and a pre-K 4 through 6 as discussed, then we can work off that.
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly what I was thinking. And then, you know, and then some specifics around the transportation like we discussed, unless these estimates that are in this material are pretty accurate, you know, or pretty close, as far as one bus, for each town and the pickups at each school, and then.
Okay.
Or just one bus going back and forth.
Yeah, there need to be a bus for each.
Otherwise it'd take too much time.
Yeah. And then even with that, I would imagine
I think more, us requesting more information from admin generally is gonna fall after any informational meeting that we have. You know, more details, because we could come up with a bunch of things that just aren't gonna fly with the public, so.
Yes.
okay.
Thank you, Meredith.
All right, Amanda?
Sorry. And then also, if we could take a closer look at what staffing changes would need to occur with that pre-K 4 to 2 and then pre-K or 4 to 3 and then pre-K 4 to 6, K to 3 and 4 to 6. We could look at those numbers as well, like who may need to switch positions, or like, do we need more staff? Do we need to move people?
That's
To look at
addressed in the document that we were looking at, the overall numbers.
I guess I was just meaning like overall in that scenario, if we included that to have, that's all I was saying. If we broke that down, like when Chris comes back with the stuff.
I'm not quite sure what you're asking, Amanda.
Yeah, I think until we have the informational, we don't really have specifics that, you know, they warrant their efforts. You know, because it's just asking too many general things. So I think we have the informational, and then we discuss as a board what we think, you know, what we're getting out of that, and then we'll have something to be able to concretely ask admin to give us information about it.
Yeah, I think that component's gonna come later as well. You know, we're primarily looking at the financial impact, really, or benefit to this. Mary Beth?
Yeah, just really quickly, like, you know, if I was just a parent attending this community forum, one of the first questions I would ask is, you know, the question that the board is asking is consolidation, and I would probably want to know how that's decided. And I know that's going to be a question that we're going to ask ourselves down the road, but as a parent coming to the forum, that's probably the first thing that I would ask is, what school would be tasked with what grades and how that would be decided. So maybe something we can, think about in the next couple of months about maybe how to answer that when parents do come to the community forum with that really basic question.
Yeah, and I've already been asked that. So I think I get that's a lot of those decisions are going to come later. And then it'll probably be something that is calculated administratively would be my thought, but it's definitely worth having the discussion. So, okay. So, all right. So we'll have more of this on our next agenda, and really, just keep having a conversation. So we're going to move on to new business, Fast Bridge presentation. All right. All right, who's doing the Fast Bridge?
So, I mean, I can speak to it. I can get it started.
Okay.
If that works. So I think that we were gonna do this slightly different than we did back in the fall when we presented data, rather than going through 28 slides worth of data. The board was given a copy of that data to look at, and Carol and I are just gonna speak about a few of the trends that we've noticed, and then just what we're looking at for next steps and where to go. Right?
Yes.
Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay. So maybe just to give a brief overview of Fast Bridge, for anyone that's not familiar with it, we're in our second year of using Fast Bridge. So it's a combination of a computer adaptive testing, meaning based on how students are performing on the computer portion, it will adjust, giving them harder questions or easier questions if based on student answers. And then it also uses some one-on-one assessments with teachers, especially in the lower grades. And so the purpose of it is to screen students. We use it 3 times a year, the fall, the winter, and the spring. And we are looking to identify skill gaps that students may have. And we also use it as a way to identify areas that we want to provide instruction for students in the form of universal intervention in the classroom or targeted intervention, sometimes pulled out with our interventionist. FastBridge is given to all of our students at both of our schools, K through 6. The assessment looks different depending on the grade level. So our younger students are more one-on-one with the teacher, and then our older students have more of the computer-based assessment. So for Middletown Springs, just identified a couple areas of promising growth that we noticed. So in our early math assessment, which is given to students in kindergarten and first grade, it looks at those developing math skills for those students. That is an assessment that's assessed one-on-one with students. I believe there's 5 different assessments, each 1 minute each. So we noticed that there was a decrease in the number of students who were scoring in the high risk range, and an increase of students who were scoring in the low risk range. So we had seen some positive growth there. And then for our students in 4th through 6th grade, they take an assessment called auto reading, which looks at phonological skills, their spelling skills, and their ability to identify meaning of words. And we noticed a decrease in students who were scoring in the high or at some risk areas, and we saw an increase of students who were scoring low risk. So we had seen some growth there. Looking at areas of concern, the two assessments that that are adaptive to students. We have a reading and a math that is given to students in 2nd through 6th grade. So in a reading, we had noticed a decrease in students who are scoring in the advanced category and an increase of students who are scoring in the high risk. So that's an area we would want to dig into more to find out why we had students who were now being flagged. And then similarly, we saw in A math that we had a decrease of students scoring in the low risk and an increase of students who are scoring as high risk. So some of the steps that we would like to take as a supervisory union, we completed a math audit with the All Learners Network. So we are pretty excited to take a look at what comes out of that audit and maybe identifying some specific areas of need, looking at specific suggestions that they might have for us. We would like to create a master schedule for next year. The purpose of this is it provides us the opportunity to increase intervention for students because not all teachers are teaching math at the same time and not all teachers are teaching reading at the same time. So looking at staggering when math is being taught throughout the grades and when reading is being taught allows our interventionists to get into classrooms a little bit more. And then just really looking to make sure that we are meeting the supervisory union expectations of the literacy block and math blocks. And then I would like to look at strengthening our literacy instruction by gaining a deeper understanding of the science of reading, just really looking at effective research-based reading instruction in our classrooms and assisting teachers with implementing those into daily instruction. There is a book called Shifting the Balance. They have it for grades K through 2, and they also have the book for it's 3 through 5, but I think our 3 through 6 staff would benefit. And digging into those resources and going through PDSA cycles with staff. So having staff identify a specific area, using the resources to identify a change that they can make in their instruction, and then going through a cycle of implementing that change, looking at the data, meeting with each other, digging into what's working, what's not working, adjusting practices. So that's where we are.
Okay. Any questions? Mary?
Hi, Corey. So you just mentioned that maybe an increase in intervention or the opportunity for intervention would be something that you would like to look for next year. I know that we have a full-time interventionist now. Do you think that she's capable of taking on more, or would that be something that we could have a 0.4 position looked into? Or I'm just kind of wondering that maybe this is a question we can, talk later on, just how you might go about reaching that goal of more intervention for more kids.
Yeah, so I think it's about, I think we can use the interventionists that we have. And it's just about looking at using her more effectively, looking at the time. So, what does her schedule look like? What roadblocks is she running into? We don't want to be pulling students from direct instruction in the classroom. When students are receiving direct instruction in reading, we don't want to pull students from that. That it's important that they're in the classroom receiving that grade level instruction. So if every teacher in the building is teaching, their reading lesson from 10 to 11, and everybody's doing their direct instruction from 10 to 10:20, she can't pull kids during that time. So just really looking at how do we schedule our day in a way that allows her to more effectively pull students and to push into classrooms, allowing her to maybe reach more students than pulling out one-to-one.
Okay, great.
Other questions? So I kind of have a question, because we're looking at Fast Bridge at the supervisory union, and that was for the whole supervisory union. And so I'm just trying to understand this a little bit more as far as, so like we look at, I'm looking at the A reading, 2 through 9, page 14, right? And it talks about the risk on that page, and it's broken down and district level, Middletown Springs and Wells.
Yeah.
And then the growth piece though, it says scores of all students in group. And so I'm looking at the growth. Is it what group is it? Is it
So the group would be all the students who took that assessment
okay.
from that school. So for A reading, you're looking at all the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth graders in that building.
All right. So the left one is for Wells and the right one's for or
On
is it all for
on slide 14,
15.
on slide 15. So that one is Wells. And then if you
Yes.
go to slide 16, it's the same assessment, but that is just looking at Middletown.
Okay. So
And so you've got the two different columns, I guess, the two different graphs, right? So you've got the one graph that's comparing the fall to the winter. Whereas I'm not sure the one to the right might be more of an average. I'm not 100% sure how that second graph is working.
Isn't that the growth measurement?
Yes.
Well, I guess the percentage of kids that made growth between. So they're comparing the kids and where their performance was in the first from the fall to the winter. And the second one is looking at the percentage of kids who made
Growth.
growth. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
that
Hey, just curious if this is tied at all to teacher performance in terms of reviews and whatnot.
No, it is not, Matt.
Okay. Is that something we can explore or is that off limits?
I don't feel comfortable discussing that here, Matt. Thank you.
Okay.
and yeah, so you already covered the data analysis. All right. Thank you so much. Anyone else have any questions? I guess I look forward to seeing the data as well with that comparison. All right.
Do you want to hear about
You
the
wanna hear
Wells
Carol?
side of it?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. I think for areas of promising growth, really talking with, and Sierra's actually here tonight, but I think implementing the UFly has made a difference in early literacy instruction, and we're showing growth and strength and foundational skills that we haven't seen before. And I think it's pretty exciting to think the difference of where they were last year at this time and where her group is this year at this time. So I think there's definitely a difference in what's happening with that.
Right?
Pardon?
I'm sorry, what were you?
Kindergarten.
That's what I thought.
Yep, they implemented in kindergarten. Another area, it was kind of an interesting area to look at for us was the CBM reading scores, that there are growth patterns in certain classrooms that kind of span. And their second and third, it was particularly second and third grade taking it, but their skills were all up from first grade all the way through sixth grade. So there was a span of ability levels in there that I think is really interesting and kind of a challenge for the teachers to look at and see how they can best help kids continue to develop their skills. Areas of concern, we do have a lot of reading scores and foundational skills and students that still have gaps in their learning kind of need to figure out how to address those gaps through intervention. I know that math skills, and I think a concern is the programming from grade level to grade level here. And hopefully the math audit is going to help us identify areas of need and kind of give suggestion for improvements. And I think with that will be enhanced PD. One of the things I think is going to benefit us and help us out next year is we started the year without an interventionist, and we did not get an interventionist until mid-November. At that time, we needed to provide training. The person which was absolutely fabulous for us because small group instruction started. We were able to look at our data and start pulling for individual needs. But I think starting next year, hopefully with an interventionist ready to go, we'll be able to get our EST teams up and running. That's been a bit of a struggle for us this year. So I'm just hopeful that that's an area that's really going to help us better address our need. Like Corey said, the master schedule, we veered away from it this year, and we are going to go back to creating a master schedule. In part, one of our classrooms, because the interventionist and the special educator kind of get stretched so thin with the amount of kids they need to see in classrooms and stuff, we started doing more of a providing instruction in the classroom. So the interventionist going in, and it seems like larger numbers of students can be seen at the same time. And so we're hoping that just looking at different and creative ways to be able to utilize people will benefit all of our kids. I think it definitely will, but I think a master schedule will support that. And then the last part is Corey and I have we've spent quite a bit of time together, and we both were talking about strengthening literacy instruction, and she had recommended using the book, The Science of Reading. And so we were talking about kind of working together to provide the same kind of professional development to both staffs. That's it. Yeah.
Mary?
Hey, Carol, do you have a full-time interventionist at Wells right now?
Yes, we do. We do,
Okay.
but she did not start until well into November.
Okay, great. And do you anticipate her taking that full-time position next year as well?
We anticipate having a full-time interventionist.
Okay, great. Awesome.
No other questions. We'll move on to the facility condition assessment.
Oh, go ahead, Eric. Sorry.
I was just gonna say everyone should have studied this in their free time, front to back, should have it memorized for both buildings. Go.
Yes, it's light reading, so it's easy to kind of leaf through. So everyone has a copy of the facility condition assessments for both Middletown Springs as well as Wells Village schools. It was in the board folders. This is born out of Act 72, and there are two primary purposes behind this around Act 72. One is to provide the state as well as the General Assembly with a better idea as to the conditions of the schools within the state of Vermont, as well as an idea about the cost. So as they're looking at ed funding and school construction bills and certain pieces of legislation, they have an idea just in terms of where we're at, within certain regions within the state, as well as overall. School construction is something which is being discussed every legislative session. You hear it's continually in the press. I do believe I had heard the other day that Vermont, with the age of the schools, is the second oldest in the United States in terms of the age of schools, and I think we're in a unique situation where a majority of our schools are starting to age out at the same time. So there are just some things for us to consider, both as boards as well as from the state level. The second part or primary purpose around this was to assist schools and districts and supervisor unions in developing 5-year capital improvement plans. And that's kind of where we're at. My recommendation to the board would be that myself, Carol, Corey, Scott will have a 5-year capital improvement plan that takes these items that are in this this assessment into in mind, and then we present this to the board at the August board meeting for the board to consider as we look at budgeting for next year as well as future years. I think there's a lot of information in this. I think it's for us to consider, but that would be my recommendation. But if the board would like to do something else with this, I follow that and do what the board asks. So
I support that recommendation. I think there's a lot of information here, a lot of terminology that it I don't know, and even August, you know, I can understand that it's going to take time to really go through these and figure out a good 5-year plan based off this information. You know, and, you know, just looking at, you know, some of the recommendations for immediate needs, a concern as well. So, anyone else? Mary?
So Eric, I just want to say that, I'm sorry, Mary, but so this would be a draft, obviously, that we present a draft and the board can weigh in, you know, obviously alter and adjust as they see fit as well. So it won't be that set in stone. It's something we'll provide a draft to the board in August. So sorry, Mary Beth.
Oh, that's okay. Just really quickly, I just noticed that our water system in Middletown Springs wasn't on the list of things to look at immediately. So I just really quickly reached out to Scott because we're pretty friendly. He's a very approachable, great guy. And I just said, you know, maybe we can get an update on that, only because in the last, I want to say 2 or 3 years, the school has been canceled or cut short because of various, you know, water issues that we've come across, either not enough pressure or, you know, whatever the unsafe environment was today. It's usually really quickly resolved. So hopefully that's not something that we have to think about in the future. Scott, I know, has been working at it throughout the year, but maybe something we can talk about, you know, it's just an update for the board a little later on.
No, Mayor, that's a very good point. And I think what we have to understand is in these facility condition assessments, there is a lot, but it also does not cover everything. So there are items or issues that Scott or Corey or Carol might be more aware of that were not captured. I think that's where our 5-year capital improvement plan will be combining the information that we have here as well as with the local information that we have through Scott and through contractors that we work with, as well as through Corey and Carol. So it'll be a combination of a variety of data points. And this assessment will be one of them. It would not just be this assessment.
I think this might give us, these documents might give us some good insight about budgeting.
Yes.
And really upping our facilities budget line substantially. So
Correct, Mayor. I think one of what the state was looking for also is as districts make future plans, they're looking at the cost to upgrade and upkeep for their facilities and the impact that may have on their communities as well. So that's something which we will discuss in August as well when we start looking at the 5-year plan.
Communities and the Ed Fund.
Senator?
I said communities and the Ed Fund.
Yes.
So I, you know, in the meantime, you know, I noticed that on the wells assessment piece, there was the fire alarm system. And I know that, you know, we had addressed this last year. And I didn't realize that did that come from this report?
No, I think that was something which Scott and the building administrators had identified prior to this report.
Okay. And okay, so the reason why I ask is, so while you're developing a draft for August, some of these, I guess, immediate needed items, are some of those still going to be addressed, or is, you know what I mean? Like,
yes, Eric, I think that's something which we can talk about. I mean, I know that Scott, Corey, and Carol, part of the budget that is approved each year has maintenance costs that they take care of. And so I think as they take care of these issues. Obviously, we'll keep track of something that may appear on this facilities condition assessment that has been addressed. We can cross that off the list, but we're not going to delay taking care of an issue. I think obviously there's some big ticket items that, exceed $40,000 that, and we look at or exceed the bid threshold. Obviously, we have to come back to the board to discuss and look at going out to bid. But a lot of smaller ticket items we can handle, we can address as we should be on a yearly basis and maintaining our facilities.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Discussion? Questions?
The combination of this report and what you guys are talking about and the actual local information that you know about these buildings, I think is really helpful. The prioritization, grade that they've given some of the things, I would think it's gonna help you guys have the discussion, and be a lot more effective in those decisions.
Yes.
Glad to have it.
That's got his work cut out for him, that's for sure. All right. Excellent. All right, so we'll plan on that for August, and then also this reminds me of our approval that the taxpayers provided for the capital improvement that we had on our town meeting or election on the ballot. And so I think we had put in there that we could take that money and use up to of this, I think like 60% or something like that. And so my thought was that we would have to actually make that determination how much money of that we wanted to use to put into the capital maintenance fund.
Now,
No. Like we'll put it on the agenda. So I'm just mentioning it. So, I mean, coming out of, looking at these reports, it just made me think of that. So, all right. All right. So if there's nothing else, we will move on to my favorite part of the agenda, policy. So we have first reads, E10, options-based response to violent intruder drills, fire drills, and emergency preparedness. E13, prevention of conflict of interest and procurement. E16, security cameras. F18, local wellness policy. D1, curriculum development coordination. And then we have 3 policies that are to be rescinded based off of revised policies and part of the GRCSU policy service that was done by the VSBA. So any questions about these policies? All right, so we would need a motion to warn E10, E13, E16, F18, and G1 for adoption.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Meredith. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, motion carries unanimously. And then the same that we will rescind, warrant needs to be rescinded for the next meeting as well. B2, E2, and F10.
I'll make that motion.
All right, motion by George. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, so let's just we're just going to jump around. We have an executive session, but we're going to come back to that and do general public comments. Tammy?
Good evening, everyone. I just have a couple of questions. So, and I apologize if you discussed this, but I was listening to one of the Polteny board meetings, and it sounds like, are they not paying for some of the busing for some of our students anymore, that they're just paying for from Polteny to Wells, and were they paying for the rest of the route and not going to be this coming fall? Or did I misunderstand something?
So
They-
So a discussion at the Quarry Valley board meeting was that for the remainder of this year, that the concern was brought to the Quarry Valley board meeting by Wells residents around the busing situation where students were being bused home from Polteny High School prior to the end of the school day. In order to remedy that, the students are taking the Stafford bus home, and the Quarry Valley is continuing to do door to door. The discussion is that next year that the transportation would be just from Polteny High School to Wells Village School, similar to what they do with Middletown Springs.
Which is what they should have been doing, you mean?
Oh, I don't know what they should have been doing. I can't. I don't know what that.
So I guess, is that going to cause the town of the Wells Springs board more money for busing, or is it's not going to affect anything?
No, this will not impact the Wellspring board at all. So
Okay.
the only individual be impacted is just families will have to figure out next year how to transport the students from the school to their house, because there will not be a bus that drops them off to their homes in the afternoon.
Gotcha. Okay. And so just going back to the discussion of consolidation, has it been thrown out there what the savings would be to close one of the schools?
Nope. I haven't considered that.
So I don't understand why that
That's gonna
wouldn't be.
That's probably gonna be like a larger community conversation too.
Okay. It just seems like, I don't know, and I haven't been a part of this, and maybe I should, but I mean, having half the school not being utilized, and shifting kids around, and if it just seems like the biggest savings would be just to shut down one school and consolidate if one of the schools could host them all. But I mean, you guys have been the ones looking at that, so I just didn't know if there was that option out there too. So, and my last question was, what kind of trout are the kids doing in the classroom? Is it lake trout or brook trout?
That's a good question.
I don't think.
I think they are
I think
brook
it's
trout.
trout. Like,
Yeah.
No, I think they're
No, they
brook trout.
usually release them in.
Yes.
So are they going to be released into our river after, or where are they going?
Yes, they will be. They'll be going behind the store.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Stop in
Well,
and see them. It's pretty impressive.
Sounds like we got to do a whole hatchery since the Fish and Wildlife is being shut down, the hatchery. So we need some lake trout too. No.
I'll talk to the teacher about that.
There you go. Okay. Thank you. That's all.
All right, thank you. All right, so we're gonna skip down again to future meeting dates and agenda items. So really quick, our next meeting, May 8th. Earlier this month, the GSU had a discussion around potentially having carousel meetings. And the idea is reduce the amount of meetings that administration are attending. And so the board meetings, evenings, that they're attending. So I'd like to, I guess, basically get also the board, if that's something that the board would like to consider. I think it was maybe during the months where there's assessments, correct, Chris? So like 3 times a year or something like that.
Right. The discussion is around the Fastbridge assessments, while we can discuss as an SU, and then we then go back and look at local districts. That was the discussion that was had.
Okay. Yeah, I think part of it too was before the SU board was gonna consider it to get local input as well. And,
Correct, Eric. I think there was discussion that if this were to happen, it wouldn't be till next year, and there's still a lot of logistical things that need to be worked out prior to this.
okay. Well, it's something that the SU board is considering, so I guess think about it. And if anyone has anything to say about it now, that's fine. All right, so we'll move on to community forum. Amanda, you suggested end of May.
Yeah, I think the end of May would be good. I don't know like what everybody's schedule is or day of the weeks, or I'm also only one person, so whatever everybody else thinks. Like May 22nd is a Wednesday. That's towards the end of the month. If we still want to do the same day of the week, or I mean, it doesn't really matter. It was just an idea that I thought might be beneficial.
Mary?
Yeah, would we potentially do one in Middletown and one in Wells? I know that kind of complicates things, but I know sometimes Middletown families stick in Middletown and Wells families stick in Wells.
Well, I think it also provides twice the opportunity as well, but. So the end of May doesn't work.
May 22nd is not, nothing that week, and that's Labor, that's Memorial Day weekend. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it's gonna be hybrid. May 23rd. All right, well, how about this? We can schedule meetings via email as well. So we don't have to figure it out tonight, but I guess what I would ask is anyone opposed to a community forum this spring?
I'm not opposed. I just think we need to have some scenarios to present.
I don't know about scenarios, but certainly, talking points, more specific, talking points, thoughts, guidance, sort of. I'm kind of concerned about rushing it, and I'm also wondering why. I know summer, you think everybody's away, but I don't know. Cramming it in seems a little, not ideal.
Right. And so May, and then potentially June board meetings, there's more opportunity to discuss and gather more information.
Yeah, so that we really, have like an agenda essentially. We can
That makes sense.
guide process of it.
All right.
Eric,
Yeah.
for this board community forum, just obviously just let myself and Lewis and Carol and Corey know what information you'll need from us so you for your presentation.
Yes.
I know there's been a discussion around scenarios and talking points, so just whatever the board needs from us to have to engage community in discussion, just let us know.
All right. Okay.
Is
So,
that something you want to work on as a subcommittee?
If we're going month to month, like talking ideas, scenarios, but talking points, we're never gonna get.
Well, that's what I
where
mean. We
to be.
need to,
So I think we need some on the side.
whether it's a
Working.
part of a regular meeting or before a regular meeting, or we sit down, develop some sort of an agenda, and then present it to the board and decide whether or not we're gonna go with that.
okay. And by agenda, you mean an agenda for a forum, right?
Yes,
Right.
yeah, not a, yeah.
What are we gonna be talking? Yeah.
Something that's gonna shape the meeting.
Right.
Because you're going to get people who are very concerned, and rightly so. And just as we have been, we get a little myopic on things, putting the cart before the horse. And I think we have to, look at sort of introducing the broad aspect of it, and then intake the different concerns that the public is going to bring to us, but not get stuck on those concerns. They're really important to hear, and that's the information we want, is what everybody's really concerned about. But we aren't going to want to try to solve or come up with an answer for those concerns during the.
Yeah, my thought behind the community forum would be, kind of like, this is what we want to do. And, as far as the consolidation piece and then just with the benefit with the community forum is that, we're able to have that back and forth, that conversation with, and I think that's the important part as well, because, there might be, like you said, issues that are raised that haven't been considered, and then that's something that we can bring back to a meeting or
Right, yeah, this isn't gonna be our only community forum. This is phase one community for us.
okay. So
I think we also need to get the word out that this is coming, whether anyone likes it or not, and it's gonna be mandated by the state. We're already rumbling about this. So
That's part
the
of it.
earlier
That's part of it.
we get to go, the more managing we can do to make it happen the way we want it to happen. Instead of waiting for them to say, this has to be done in 2 years. I think that's an important point to put out there.
So, so a committee, or is this something that we can figure out in the meeting? Because that's my next question.
If you have room for the agenda in May, then we could do it during the meeting.
I mean, I say yes now, but you never know what's going to happen in the next 30 days. But I would say that I think I don't see why we can't, and especially if we have specific objectives we want to reach in regards to this as well. Perhaps you and I can get together and talk about it and have something that's more tangible at the next meeting that we can come out of that meeting with specifics.
It would be nice to have an outline as part of the package that people can look at ahead of time. That'll save time during the meeting.
Okay, so as far as, I guess, the form goes, maybe we can just hold off on that. I know kind of, the summer months and vacationing and all that fun stuff, they fill up pretty quick, but, um, yeah. Does anyone, have any concerns about holding off on, setting a date for the forum just yet? Okay. Sounds good. All right. So we need to have an executive session. I want to make a motion, that we move into executive session. Oh, Mary Beth?
I'm sorry, did we already go through the second public comment portion?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
Motion for executive session under personnel. Someone's here to make a motion.
I'll make that motion. Go to executive session.
Executive session at 7:31. Thank you, everyone, for coming. After we come out of executive session, we will come back to this link and finish out the meeting, and we'll invite both principals to the executive session as well. All those in favor of entering executive session, I forgot about that. Please say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. All right. After executive session. Okay. All right, so we're at an executive session at 7:53 by consensus. And looking for a motion to approve the contracts for Deb Winpenny and Lisa Whitman.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by George. Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Did we lose Mary or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There she is there.
Oh, I thought I saw her there. I got worried for a second. Mary, George has made a motion to approve the contracts for Deb Whitpenny and Lisa Whitman. Are you in favor? Mary? Okay, well, maybe she's having connection issues. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. And then, someone care to make a motion in regards to, approval of Ryan Lawrence for a, 1 FTE PE health and wellness teacher?
I'll make that motion.
All right, motion by Matt. Discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Matt?
Sorry, I'm for. I thought since I made the motion, I didn't have to say aye, but aye.
I just want to clarify.
Sure.
Otherwise, it's a roll call vote. All right, motion carries, Ken. All right, that's all we have, for the meeting tonight. We care to make a motion to adjourn 7:57.
I'll make that motion.
All right. All those in favor of adjourning 7:57, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.